Hey, welcome to a special edition of GaleForceWins. I was on Spotify the other day and I was scrolling down on my phone to find an episode that I would be interested in on a podcast that I listen to. It's called Entree Leadership. And I'll share the screen with you shortly to show you what it looks like. But anyway, I was scrolling through it. I'll give you just some idea of the topics that they have. How to always make good decisions, most overlooked habit of great leadership, how to multiply yourself with a habit of delegation. It's all about management and leadership. Anyway, one episode they posted actually Monday, December 26th was the best leadership advice of 2022. And on their screen, it says only 59 minutes. So got me to thinking. I listened to it and it was fantastic. Can't remember how many people I had on it, 7 or 8 or 9 or something like that. But anyway, it got me to thinking to summarize several of the episodes that we've had. One of the questions that Alan often asks is, what's a piece of advice that you would leave? And I love that because that encapsulates pretty well everything that the person we're talking to is all about. So in this episode, I'll have 5 or 6 or 7 from 2022. And I should have counted before I actually started the edit on this. I actually edited 9 clips out of the 54 episodes posted in 2022, and those 9 appear here. And if you like it, let me know, and make a comment on our YouTube channel or wherever you listen to it. Yeah, so thanks for joining us. GaleForceWins has had an incredible 2022. Please subscribe, share with your friends. This is something that we're going to continue to do. Every Tuesday night, we're going to post some inspiring content from inspiring people.
Yeah, okay. I'm Taylor Giovannetti. I'm originally from St. Lawrence, Newfoundland, which is a small community just up the road, about 30 minutes. So I grew up on the Burin Peninsula. I then, like every other, after I graduated high school, went to Memorial University, spent a lot of time in St. John's, and this full venture brought me back to the peninsula. I grew up in a family there was 5 of us. I'm the middle child, family of entrepreneurs, guidance counselors. Sex ed was fun growing up. My mother taught it to me. So I mean, from inception of everything, I've been just working in the family business and entrepreneurial spirit.
Wow. It's pretty amazing. I mean, there's so much I want to dive into about the journey so far. I know that Jerry will be intrigued by the entrepreneurial side. Like, you go ahead and ask that, your famous question, Jerry.
Well, the thing that I'm always fascinated about is the transition from a paycheck to your own business. And I will tell you, every entrepreneur I talk to, and Alan and I have done this ourselves, is when you transition from getting a regular paycheck to having your own business, it is scary.
Yes.
But most entrepreneurs, Taylor, kind of gloss over that. Just take us to the point where the decision is made to do that.
Okay.
I'm digging deep here now. And if it's too emotional.
No, it's okay.
If it's too emotional, I don't care. I need to hear it.
It came to the point with my husband and I, he's equivalent to about 10 men, in terms of his work ethic.
Right.
And he's exceptional. And he was working for a lot of big projects in Newfoundland, and they all loved him. They all really loved him, but he was never home.
Based on that description, I understand why they loved him.
Right.
Yeah.
And so it came to the point where I knew that I needed to expand my mind and do something more. I knew there was something more in me. And I knew that Colin was unhappy as well, so we just decided together, okay, enough is enough. He's left Soldier's Pond, and we just took that dive.
But that decision
was
give us the 6 months, 12 months, 2 years, 5 years. It didn't happen overnight.
It did not happen overnight, and we definitely had a lot of support from our families because, like I said, we lost our investment, so we had to remortgage our house.
Scary time.
We had to do all those things. We were looking at each other like, what the hell did we do?
Yeah.
When shit happens.
Yeah.
But the piece of advice my father gave us at one point when I swear we were ready to give up, he's like, "You're 100 meters from the shore. You're gonna quit swimming now?" I'm like, "No, I guess not."
Well, guys, I am Bill Skirman. I'm a Summerside native, born and brought up not too far from here, actually. Played a lot of sports when I was younger. Always found a way to get on a team that either played in provincial events or regional events or national events. So I certainly was very appreciative and mentored early in my life by a number of local coaches, shall we say. I came from a family that, as you suggested, were quite involved and have been and still are quite involved. My dad just turned 91. He can tell you all kinds of history about Summerside. My grandfather, who was my dad's best friend, and I like to think my dad is my best friend, which I think is great, obviously provided a lot of influence, and we were taught very early in our family to give back. That community comes almost before family, family first, but community right after that. So it was bred into us to get involved. I can remember a story of my grandfather and my dad telling me we used to do a lot of events, which I'm sure we'll get into at some point in time, and occasionally, you would think, oh wow, we did a fairly significant feat. My dad and my grandfather and a group of individuals in Summerside in 1955 signed a note to bring the Boston Bruins into Summerside.
Really?
1955, so you can imagine 1955 how you would arrange to get the Boston Bruins into Summerside. My suggestion would be, if you look at me and some of the things that I've been lucky enough to do, I've always practiced that all anyone could say is no. So if you don't ask, and if you don't ask more than once, all they can say, what's the worst that could ever happen to you is that somebody might say no. And half the time you don't even have to tell the world that they've said no. So there's nothing out there that I believe that can't be accomplished, nothing. You just have to have a little bit of courage, and with the thought that all they can say is no. That's the worst that could ever happen. So I mentioned, we spoke to students at Three Oaks the other day, and I think the last group that we had was that, the world, you can do anything you want to do in this world. People will say that you may not be able to, but there's living proof right in your households, right in your family, right on your streets, right in your communities that, you know what, you can do anything you want to do. You just need to go do it and surround yourself with people that are like-minded, that are willing to support you through thick and thin. So all anybody can say is no, I think.
Fred George, why don't you take us into that boat yesterday and what was going on? Because I got to tell you, that was an impressive scene.
Well, let me tell you, Alan, God bless you both. If I knew you guys were going to bring the GaleForceWins with you, I would have not invited you. So, I know you call yourself GaleForceWins, and that's what we had yesterday.
Yeah.
We always have the wind here from the south, and we figured out the harbor should be flat. But yesterday was northeasterly wind.
But you made it happen. You didn't witness it, you made it happen. And what Jerry and I witnessed yesterday was a guy in the heat of the moment, and everything was turning against you. The ocean turned against you at the last minute to say, Fred, you're not going to make this happen. But you didn't give up, Fred. You did not give up.
As you know, Alan, give up. Failure is when you stop trying.
Right.
And this doesn't exist in my vocabulary. Every man have a dream. And I happen to dream big. But as you know, you gotta crawl before you walk, and you gotta walk before you run. And the trick is, keep walking forward. And don't stop. And what I did after that, I know how the country's built, and I appreciate Canada opening the door for us. And we keep doing this even now for all the new entrepreneurs who arrive to our country here. It's a beautiful country. We love everyone. We're multicultural. What I did at that time, Alan, be honest with you, after I finished with the Dominion store, I opened these video stores in the 80s, if you remember. Video was a big hit. People pay money to rent video. So I ended up running 14 video stores. After the video store, I opened a water company. Sugar.
I'm going to stop you.
All right, there you go.
And I find this, Alan, you know where I'm going with this. Entrepreneurs like yourself, Fred, they kind of gloss over the transition from a paycheck to actually starting video stores. Like, you're working at Dominion,
and then you ended up with 14 video stores. How long was that idea in your head, and how long did it take you to put that into action?
You know, it's I'm one of those businessmen. I'm very quick on the draw. A lot of people, they think for probably 90 minutes and do action 10 minutes. I think 10 minutes and I do action 90 minutes. So I don't waste time. You can't waste time. You don't want one day when you're ready to die and laying on your bed and you're 99 years old and say, I wish I would have done this. I'd rather say, too bad I did this, or too bad I made that mistake. So when you have this kind of attitude and thinking forward, failure is not in your vocabulary, because you can always get the job done. I always say my motto in life, difficult but never impossible. And people equally informed seldom disagree. So I made sure everyone around me was well informed. And to be successful in business, surround yourself with the good people.
Yeah.
That's what you gotta invest in.
Right.
Don't try to do it yourself. I mean, I talked one time to Wayne Gretzky. It was a good friend of mine. We enjoy a good cigar every now and then. If you try to score the goal by yourself, you will never make it. You need the team around you. And then you can score your goal and win in the end. And that's what I did. I built myself, I surrounded myself with very smart people, and the timing is everything. I had the right timing, the right people behind me, and that's how I made it happen.
My name is Barry Lane, and I grew up in a place called Windsor, Grand Falls. And
Barry, we've had a lot of people on our podcast who've had wonderful journeys just like yours, and we always ask them to leave the audience with a piece of advice. Now you're a man who's seen a lot of things, done a lot of things, and helped a lot of people along the way. What would that piece of advice be?
to seniors, you mean?
In general.
Well, I think that if somebody's out there and they're struggling as to what we should do for mom or dad, and they know that they're struggling, I think you should be at peace that there's places in Newfoundland, not just our homes, but other homes, that are welcoming and can bring a good quality to their mom, to their dad, and they won't regret it. You know, they don't need to struggle, and they don't need their parents to struggle. I think they need to look at a place like this and to be at peace that this is what we need, you know, for our mom and dad.
I'm Danny Bellingham. I own T-Box Indoor Golf. It is the largest and I think most visited indoor golf facility in Newfoundland. We have 5 indoor golf simulators. We have 40 plus different courses, most of them are PGA rated. And I think it's one of the places in town where literally you can go for 2 hours, completely forget everything, and it's not just to do with what you're drinking, it's the experience itself. So for those people who can't travel, it's an easy way to get to some of the best courses in the world.
All right.
I would say that the most important person you should listen to is yourself. There are going to be other people around you who have different ideas of the way things should be done, of, you know, where it even comes to, you know, what you study, how you dress, whatever. You being your authentic self is going to get you further in life than anywhere. In 10 years' time, like compared to 10 years ago, I don't even know if I knew what Newfoundland was, to be honest with you. No offense, Newfoundland, I apologise. But yeah, again, none of what I've done has, like, on paper made sense. I don't think anyone was thinking, hey, if you move from oil and gas all the way over to Newfoundland with not much going on, then hey, you know, that's a great idea. Give up everything you've done, go here for a girl you met. But yeah, I listened to what I thought was best, and you know, I made decisions on what I thought would be best for my authentic, you know, self. All of these things wouldn't have happened if I didn't give things a go, because I thought in my head that they would be the way to go. So I think, yeah, if I was talking to my 20-year-old self, or 20 years ago, or whatever you want to call it, I just say to, yeah, make sure that, like, you're doing the things that you want, because your whole environment can change, your whole life can change if you put yourself in these positions, and it won't happen if you let things inside your head and the way you think and the way you want to do things yeah, it won't happen if you let all of that create out what you really think and feel. So,
Danny, how does it feel to have created a business? T-Box Indoor Golf is well known right now. Not as well known as I'm sure you would like.
yeah.
How does it feel to have created something from nothing, frankly?
My wife gets angry at me. Well, not angry, but my wife tells me I shouldn't just say this, but like, I'm just happy to be survived after all this. Like, of all these things that could have happened, and then like I'm here and like the business is doing well. Like, I'm more pumped about that than like opening it and doing that kind of thing. It's given me a ton of confidence in, different things I can try and do. And like, if I, again, when my head goes off in these all different directions, like, well, I could do this now because in my head, like I've done something similar. Yeah, I'm proud of the fact that it's worked out and all the lessons that have been learned and, relationships I've formed and the way that people interact with the business. Like, I enjoy going to work. And I think that's probably one of the best things is like, yeah, I could be in a completely different place doing something different that may have other advantages, but it wouldn't be me. And I feel like doing what I'm doing now is just like an extension of, the attitude that brings bringing a business together. So like, yeah, I'm pumped that we're doing what we're doing. So. Jerry, your thoughts?
It's the fact that this is our 100th episode, Alan. I'm extremely happy to be a partner with you. I'm extremely happy that Gerard Murphy is our 100th guest, 100th episode. So I just wanted to say that, Gerard, you've taken a journey that, frankly, you and I knew each other as basically teenagers in our early 20s. You went to Halifax, and we haven't really connected. So on our 100th episode, 3 East End St. John's boys are back together.
Jerry, 100 episodes. Wow, what a journey the last year has been. And I know that you said that you've enjoyed it. I have to tell you that it's been an absolute privilege to do this with you. You've made me a better person in the last year. Thank you for that. This podcast inspires me every single time I do it, and it keeps things very exciting for me, and I'm very excited for our next guest. So Gerard, why don't you go ahead and introduce yourself?
Awesome. Thank you, Alan, and Jerry. Thank you. I would be remiss if I didn't celebrate the fact that you're celebrating your 100th milestone with me today. And on behalf, I think, of all of the people who've been listening to you in the last year, all of your guests, please know that we celebrate you and we celebrate the great work that you've done to inspire people. And I'm happy to be in the hot seat. And I've got my biggest mug of coffee all filled up, ready to go. Alan, it's a loaded question. Like when people say to me, "Who are you?" or "Tell us your story," my first reaction to that is, "How much time do you have?" Right? But
Alan's got an answer to that. Tell him.
Yeah.
I've been asked that question before, Gerard. We have the whole internet, so
love that. Let's hope
Yeah, of course, when Alan makes that joke, that a lot of people leave the podcast. Oh, dear God, we can't listen to these guys for that long. But anyway, Sorry, Gerard, we're trampling all over your introduction.
It's all good. It's all good. I mean, I promise that whatever we share, people will want to listen to. So don't exit yet, people. East Ender, yeah. I mean, I think absolutely, a born and bred Newfoundland boy. Right. And I love the fact that we're all from the East End, which is fantastic. My story, I guess, as I think about who I am and how I found my feet. I mean, Jerry, you might know this. I mean, I lived in St. John's, as you've alluded to, but took off to Halifax, shortly after high school. I was 18 or 19. But I often say, I'm from Newfoundland, but it depends on who I'm talking to, which describes where I'm from, because I was born in Corner Brook, but I grew up in St. John's mostly. So depending on who I'm speaking with, I might say I'm a townie or I might say I'm not a townie. But for you gentlemen today, we'll just go with I'm from town. How does that sound?
That sounds great.
Yeah. And I mean, it's funny when I ask people that same question, often what I'm looking for is like, truly tell me who you are. Right. And I think for me, Alan, when I think about my story, it conjures up images of, who I was surrounded with as I grew up. I grew up in a family of 2 other siblings, 2 parents. We skirted around Newfoundland. We landed in St. John's at some point. I was the middle child. I was the only boy, right? I was Roman Catholic. recovering at this point to some degree, right? For many reasons. I was a tall, skinny kid in high school, right? I was that kid that was bullied. I was that kid that, even when I got my first job at a local fast food restaurant, was still bullied, So I've gone through a lot of, I'm going to use the word trauma very loosely, but as I've gotten older, I've settled into thinking about the impact of that on me. And we can go down that road a bit later if you'd like. But, right now, today, I am an entrepreneur.
About it. Gerard, we have an audience that is, it's broad, it's global, it's people from all really walks of life, and they tune in to find pieces of inspiration, and your message, start to finish, is one that it's peppered with inspirational stories, and your journey is a wonderful one. Yeah. What would be a piece of advice that you might like to leave?
I think, Alan, aside from that whole business of, what I call, be your spark and live it every day, full stop, right? That'd be the first. Discover that spark. What is it that fills your cup, and live it? I think the other thing that I've learned is it's that notion of being persistent. And when I say that, what I really mean is, take the time to develop the skills to be able to really stand up for what you need, right? I mean, for me, growing up and growing through my experience of being an entrepreneur, I've learned to settle into being assertive and knowing that it's okay to be assertive. And when I say that, I think the important piece to that is knowing that it's okay for you to speak up for what you need as a small business owner, as a spouse, as a parent, as a neighbor. And I think that's got me a long way. So my wish for your listeners would be to think about, how well am I being persistent every day and asking for and really going after what I want, right? Because I think for me, that's what's worked.
So, thank you so much, Alan. My name is Justin Garland, co-owner and general manager here at the St. John's Fish Exchange restaurant. We've been open since January 2016. I was born and raised here in the city, East End boy, as they say. And, growing up, I was always interested in businesses. First real interest was real estate, actually. So I used to go to the open houses with different real estate agents and hang out with them on the weekends and such. And then I started to get more and more interested in the restaurant side of things. My best friend's father had numerous restaurants throughout the city, and I sort of tagged along and had interest in what his operations were like and what that side of the business was like. So, growing up, after I finished high school, I went on to do business in school, and throughout that at Munn here, and then I went on to the College of North Atlantic and did the business sales and marketing program, which was fantastic. Very hands-on program, learned a lot there. So while I was doing that program, I actually worked at the Keg. Started busing, bartending, serving, getting a part of that operation.
Just down there.
Just down on the waterfront there, just behind us here at the restaurant today. And, but my interest was always to get in the business side of things. Mm-hmm. So, Rob Moore, my business partner here, owned the Keg, and we've always said, we love to do a project together. And then this came about in 2015. We started talking about it. It was the right size. I was just finishing school a couple years prior. I did the management training program at the Keg, which was fantastic, very knowledgeable. They're celebrating 50 years in business. So, it's a proven science. You learn a lot from operations like that have been around the block. As many negatives as there are out there, you have to say, okay, what can we do to make this an opportunity? It's all about those opportunities, whether it's me as somebody who's paying the bills, or it's the staff member that's coming on board that now they feel empowered because they're the baker,
That's what we call turning lemons into lemonade.
Yes,
right?
Exactly. Yeah, you got to.
Culinary term there for you.
You got to when you can, for sure, Otherwise, you just be some dark days, but...
Well, Justin, I was thinking about you as you're talking there, and you said you were 25 when you started, 25, 26. Mm-hmm. I was still in university.
Oh, okay, yeah.
And my Lord, man, you've gotten some experience for a guy in his early 30s, I'm calculating.
Yes, yeah, right? 32 now.
It's amazing. Like, what would you say to a young person about being in business? How would you summarize the experience and some of the things maybe they should do?
It's been rewarding. There's been some knocks along the way. There was other businesses that I was involved in that weren't as successful. Like, you took some knocks in, but and that's one of the things about being young, that you can sort of take a bit of a chance. You can sort of lick your wounds and get up and know, okay, I got a lot of years ahead of me. And it's knowing that, you know, you sort of need to get these little bumps in the road to really appreciate what you have. It made me really reappreciate what I have here at the Fish Exchange. And knowing that, you know, in terms of it's not sacrificing your pride to not know something, and to not be afraid to ask questions and go to people for assistance. Because at the end of the day, there's many people with experience that love to share it, who have been through worse than what you're going through, that are say, hey, you know, I've been through this is how I got through it. So, you know, it really puts everything into perspective. And, you know, there's no shame in surrounding yourself. You know, I see that with a lot of different concepts, that people surround themselves with people that they feel comfortable with, maybe on the same knowledge level or experience level. Well, that's been one of the great things that I've learned from here, you know, having, you know, our chef when we first opened Maurizio has been around the block, you know, and it doesn't have to be people that are your best friends, but it's that mutual respect that you learned, and, you know, folks in from other sectors. I'm not ashamed to say, you know, I'm not the smartest person in the room, but I like to talk to the smarter people and learn from them.
You're hardworking, though, aren't you?
Yes, I'm not afraid of work, you know, but I'm not afraid to know when I'm wrong and to ask for help. And that's really the advice that I would give, you know.
Yeah, surround yourself with smart people.
Yes, exactly.
And then listen to them.
Yes, exactly.
Yeah.
Listening is very, very important along the way.
Well, I'm 56 and I've got 1/10 of the knowledge.
Oh, I wouldn't say that. I'm sure I can learn a lot from you, and that's the beauty of it all, having conversations like this with people from different experiences, different sectors. And, you know, it doesn't have to be somebody in my sector. You know, obviously, you know, you've done different businesses and you've been involved in different things, and the people that you could talk to next could be a whole different, you know, kettle of fish. But that's the great thing about having conversations like this.
There's pride in creating something, and you and Rob have created something special here, and for that, we commend you.
Edition of GaleForceWins, and what an absolute pleasure it is to be back in Newfoundland and talking to entrepreneurs, people that are doing great things. A lot of good things happening in this province, and I can't wait to get into the conversation right now. Kim, why don't you go ahead and introduce yourself?
Okay, hi, my name is Kim Padden, and I am an entrepreneur, and I own Wink, the Newfoundland Weavery, and also Sparks Design. Oh, God. Well, I really hope anybody that's listening, I've inspired. When I did that talk, somebody messaged me right that night and said, you inspired me to post something last night, and I was like, oh my God, that's what I wanted, you know? So I really hope I inspire, you know, people, and I think the biggest thing, like with our wonderful conversation, is, you know, you just got to dream big, like, and there's no dream that's too small or too big. And I'm such a big believer of, like, you know, if you have a path, just make sure you're going forward, and it doesn't matter how big your steps are, as long as you're kind of going that direction, and just don't step back. You know, you might get, you know, off the path a little bit here and there, but that's life, you know. And then the other thing is just always differentiate yourself. You always need to be different, because in today's world, you know, it's saturated market, and just be different and be bold and be you. And that's essentially what I've done. And I think that's why Wink especially had been successful as it is now, is just because I've differentiated myself.
Well, thanks very much, guys. Pleasure to be here. Walk you through some things today, I guess, and let you know a little bit more about me, which is why we're here. But Stephen Din, as you said, I grew up in the Churchill Square area of St. John's and haven't really strayed far since. I remember accepting an award in the Board of Trade on behalf of PAL one year, and one of the things I said after getting the Business Excellence Award was just a message from a professional perspective is, you know, don't be afraid to compete one day and partner the next. Mm-hmm. We're small. We're a small place. We've got a lot of successful companies, and we're going to compete and butt heads on some things. Doesn't mean we can't partner and work together to be successful tomorrow.
Right.
So that's one thing I think is pretty important, and we've done that at our work, and you know, you can't close doors. You have to be open to that stuff, and sometimes it's not going to work out on the same page for you. But and I guess from a personal perspective, and I've kind of said it, you know, in something a friend told me earlier, but I would, you know, you're in charge of you, you know, and to young people especially, you know, you're in charge of you and you alone, and I wouldn't sacrifice a day of happiness for anything. Mm-hmm. You've got a short time here. You can't predict everything that's going to happen and cross your path throughout life, but you got to be happy. That's bottom line.
Thank you for tuning in to GaleForceWins. That's GaleForceWins, WINS.com.